Lauren Boebert wants socialism, Stormy Daniels has come back to haunt Trump, Ron DeSantis is trying to ban everything in sight, and Republicans have flip-flopped over the Chinese spy balloon. I'm Gabe Sanchez, and welcome back to another episode of What Was That? Groundhog's Day happened recently, which means we have another 6 weeks of this hellscape. Oops, got that wrong. Looks like no matter how hard we try, we're forever stuck in this messed up timeline. And one of those moments in the timeline has been Republicans like Lauren Boebert complaining about Newsmax being dropped by DirectTV.
Newsmax was removed from DirectTV, DirectTV Stream, and Uverse, denying 13 million customers this highly rated news channel.
And then she complained about how conservatives are being treated.
Conservatives are not being treated fairly. We're the ones who are censored by big tech. We're the ones targeted and called domestic terrorists when moms and dads show up at school board meetings.
I mean, besides the obvious fact that Republicans are domestic terrorists, they literally called themselves that at CPAC. They even put it up on a big screen.
We are all domestic terrorists.
So just to summarize what's going on here, Republican Representative Lauren Boebert is using her government position on the House floor to cry about how the federal government should force a private company to carry a right-wing channel on their network. So I guess free market capitalism is great, until the capitalist corporation doesn't do what Republicans want them to do. So even though they can literally watch Newsmax on their smartphone, TV streaming app, or the Newsmax website, Republicans are just being super dramatic.
Oh my God, this is a travesty.
And on Truth Social, Trump is even demanding that AT&T reinstate Newsmax and OAN. It's actually pretty simple. Republicans are just mad that a private company said they won't be able to spew their garbage on these unpopular channels anymore. Because here are the facts. Newsmax was demanding a carriage fee even though they have the lowest ratings when compared against other news channels, like MSNBC, which had Matt Gaetz on in some lame attempt to rehabilitate his image. Gaetz spoke with Ari Melber and denied that he ever asked for a pardon.
Just to be clear, you're denying that you sought a pardon for yourself?
Yes, that's correct.
Which didn't go over so well for Matt Gaetz when Ari Melber brought out the receipts.
We've got multiple people, the director of White House presidential personnel, who's a Trump loyalist, lawyer Eric Hirschman, Cassie Hutchinson famously. We could put this up. They all testified under oath that you specifically requested a pardon.
And then in that same interview, Gaetz said he condemns the political violence of the January 6th insurrectionists.
When they stormed the Capitol, your view was what of them?
My view is that that was a terrible day, and I completely oppose political violence. I love politics, but I'm not much for violence. So if this thing becomes violent, I'm not going to be very good at it for very long. So I have no love for anyone who would strike another, harm another for the sake of politics like that.
Well, that's odd, because I seem to remember Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene trying to visit the January 6th insurrectionists in jail.
This is a rare time under this administration where prison is used to lock people out instead of lock people in.
Because they don't want to know what's happening inside. Apparently, they don't want anyone to know what's happening inside.
Speaking of Marge, she has the audacity to complain about her job as Congresswoman. You know, the one that she chose to run for.
The nature of this job, it keeps members of Congress and senators in Washington so much of the time, too much of the time, to be honest with you, that we don't get to go home and spend more time with our families, our friends. Becoming a member of Congress has made my life miserable. I made a lot more money before I got here. I've lost money since I've gotten here. I have people come up to me and say crazy things to me out of the blue in public places that they believe because they read it on the internet or saw it on some news show about me.
You mean like when you said vaccine passports was the same as wearing the gold star that Jewish people wore during the Holocaust? Or how 9/11 was an inside job? Or that you believe in Jewish space lasers? Or that time you harassed David Hogg, a survivor of the Parkland school shooting?
You know, if school zones were protected with security guards with guns, there would be no mass shootings at schools. Do you know that? The best way to stop a bad guy with a gun is with a good guy with a gun. But yet you're attacking our Second Amendment. And you have nothing to say. No words. So I'm walking. He's got nothing to say. Sad. He has nothing to say because there really isn't anything to say, you guys. He has nothing to say because he's paid to do this.
Or that time you talked about believing in QAnon.
Q is a patriot. We know that for sure. There's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to take this global cabal of Satan-worshiping pedophiles out. And I think we have the president to do it.
It's not pronounced cable. It's cabal. Look, Marge, if you're gonna talk about a global conspiracy of Democrats being satanic pedophile cannibals, at least know how to say the words correctly. No one is twisting your words or making anything up. I mean, well, besides you, of course. I know thinking isn't your strong suit, but if you don't like the job, the pay, or the fact that you can't spend time with your family, then just resign. Quit already.
Do it. Do it.
Speaking of doing it, Donald Trump could soon face criminal charges for his $130,000 hush money payment to Stormy Daniels for their affair in 2006. The Manhattan DA's office is making the case that Trump's payment to Daniels before the 2016 election constituted violations of election and business records laws. Specifically, they're attempting to prove that the paperwork detailing Trump's reimbursement of Michael Cohen was an attempt to cover up an illegal campaign contribution. So now Trump's dilemma is whether or not he decides that the payments had anything to do with the 2016 election. If it did, then it proves Trump is guilty. But if it didn't, then Trump would now have to explain why he spent $130,000 to prevent his wife Melania from finding out about his affair with Stormy Daniels. You know, because he said it was fake news. But according to Stormy Daniels,
the worst 90 seconds of my life that I spent with Donald Trump.
I gotta say, when it comes to Republican family values, Donald Trump is the perfect spokesperson. And when Trump found out the Manhattan DA impaneled a grand jury, he went on to his echo chamber app Truth Social and did what he normally does. Rant. Trump actually admitted to his affair with Daniels by saying, "It is very old and happened a long time ago, long past the very publicly known and accepted deadline of the statute of limitations." The stress and pressure is compounding on Trump. He's freaking out over the Fulton County election case, New York Attorney General Letitia James's $250 million lawsuit, and Special Counsel Jack Smith's investigation into January 6th and the stealing of classified documents to Mar-a-Lago. And all Trump can do is just wave his tiny arms back and forth in the videos he makes from Mar-a-Lago, which looks pretty familiar to another Florida fascist, Ron DeSantis. Honestly, Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis look like they can be in an accordion band together. That's if Trump wasn't accusing DeSantis of being a groomer, which is rich coming from Trump. But when DeSantis isn't busy playing the air accordion, he's focused on the important issues impacting Floridians, like the sales tax on gas stoves. DeSantis wouldn't just be doing this for performative reasons, right? I mean, there has to be a lot of Floridians using gas stoves. Wait, 8%? Come on, guys, that number can't be right. Well, it turns out 8% of Florida uses gas stoves, with the remaining 92% using electric, which means DeSantis' dumb policy is to ban the sales tax on something that barely anyone uses. Also, DeSantis makes it seem like Antifa is going to kick down your front door and steal your gas stove. Just imagine a single person trying to drag a gas stove out from someone's house. I mean, most people have a hard enough time as it is just moving their stove to clean the back. But you know who will kick down your front door? Ron DeSantis and his illiterate militia. DeSantis is on a banning spree, from erasing African American history to eliminating almost every book from school libraries. If it was written by a woman, a person of color, or anyone who identifies as something that isn't a white Republican ideology, then it's banned. I wouldn't be surprised if DeSantis starts burning dictionaries. It is pretty clear that Florida isn't sending their best, and the Villages is no exception. The Villages, which claims to be Florida's friendliest hometown, also has a reputation as a far-right Republican stronghold. The very racist retirement community was in the news for voter fraud. Again, a fourth resident named John Ryder was charged back in December 2021 and is now avoiding jail time under a pre-trial intervention program. Oh, what's the program? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's a grueling 50 hours of community service at a cost of $10 per hour. Yep, sounds about white to me. Once again proving that every single Republican accusation is a confession. Which actually just inspired me to make a horror movie called When a Republican Votes. We've traced the voter fraud. It's coming from inside the party. Coming to theaters this Halloween, so be on the lookout. But till then, you might be more focused on what's in the sky.
Breaking news, the U.S. tracking a suspected Chinese spy balloon flying over the United States. This is a picture of the balloon, and that balloon is the size of 3 buses.
When the Chinese spy balloon drama first entered U.S. airspace, Republicans were outraged that Biden would allow such a thing to happen. Performative idiots like J.D. Vance thought he could shoot down the balloon even though it was at an altitude of more than 60,000 feet. And just so you know, most commercial airliners typically travel between 33,000 and 42,000 feet. But before taking it down over the Atlantic Ocean, the Pentagon collected data on the balloon while preventing the balloon from gathering U.S. data. And then, right on cue, Republicans were outraged that Biden took down the balloon. According to the DoD, there were 3 balloons that Trump allowed to enter U.S. airspace to which he said nothing and did nothing.
According to a military intelligence assessment from April of 2022, it lays out how in 2019, when Donald Trump was president of the United States, there was a balloon, a Chinese-operated balloon, that crossed over Hawaii and through Florida at one point as an example of one of these basically issues occurring prior to this administration.
But we shouldn't believe the DoD because Jim Jordan says otherwise.
And the idea that, that they're going to somehow say, that there were 3 of these. No one believes that.
Wait, what was that?
Say, that there were 3 of these. No one believes that.
So once again, Republicans became outraged at President Biden for doing the very thing that Trump didn't do, but should have done. And since then, we've had other objects that have flown into U.S. airspace that have been taken down.
I want to be clear. We don't have any evidence that there has been a sudden increase in the number of objects in the sky. We're now just seeing more of them, partially because the steps we've taken to increase our radars, to narrow our radars.
So naturally, George Santos now claims that he identified and took down these flying objects in the sky. Okay, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we have a George Santos exclusive, folks. My team in the studio tells me that George Santos sent us footage of him inside the fighter jet moments before he took one of them down. Wait, hold up a sec. Why does George Santos look like MAGA Republican Randy Quaid? Independence Day, are you sure? I don't know what it is, but George Santos just can't stop lying. Well, thanks so much for watching another episode of What Was That? If you'd like to see exclusive bonus content on more news and current events, make sure to join the community at whatwasthatshow.com. So until next time, I'm Gabe Sanchez, and this has been What Was That?